This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Late Show on Teachers Talk Radio. Today, the 20th of August, 2025. I'll be looking at bridging the gap in teacher education with my special guest, Dr. Janet Ayoub.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Wednesday Late Show on Teachers Talk Radio. My name is Graham Stanley. As I mentioned, I'll be talking about teacher education with my special guest, Dr. Janet Ayoub. Dr. Janet Ayoub is a professor at the Lebanese University and an internationally recognized teacher educator, trainer, and e-moderator with the British Council, with over 4 decades of experience in English language teacher education. She has taught at all levels, from secondary schools to higher education, and has mentored countless pre-service and in-service teachers across Lebanon and beyond. Her expertise spans teaching methodology, curriculum development, teacher training, and e-learning. She's led numerous training programs in the MENA region, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Asia, supporting educators in diverse contexts, including refugee and post-crisis settings. Dr. Ayoub is also a published researcher and author with contributions on teacher resilience, classroom practice, language policy, and educational innovation. And I'll be talking to Janet after the Teachers Talk Radio news.
Get a head start on your fresh start with Bloomsbury Education. With 30% off all our books till the end of September, this back-to-school sale is your chance to stock up on CPD titles, classroom resource banks, lesson ideas, and practical solutions to every teacher's pain points. Browse titles on sale from the Like a Ninja series, The Week Junior, and Let's Talk picture books, perfect for the new school year. From leadership to inclusivity and maths to mental health, Bloomsbury Education has books for every step of your teaching journey. Welcome back to school at bloomsbury.com/back-to-school sale.
Over 7,500 primary schools are already using Kapow Primary to boost confidence in teaching foundation subjects. Our expert-created curriculum planning, lessons and CPD are here to support and upskill you, whether you're a subject lead or classroom teacher. If you've got knowledge gaps in art, music, computing or beyond, we've got you covered. Head to kapowprimary.com and empower your teaching today.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
This week on Teachers Talk Radio News, A-level exams week, results analysed, some interesting changes, the attainment gap widens, attendance remains a persistent problem, and some troubling news for some schools in Northern Ireland. This week, nervous students consult their phones, tap into websites, or go to their schools to get their A-level, T-level, and BTEC results. An article in Schools Week, Inside the Exams Factory, How GCSE and A-level grades are made, sheds light on the system we've become so used to. The article reminds us that 16 million individual exams were sat across the 6 weeks of summer. All in all, nearly 6,000 centres had exam papers delivered last year, and 70,000 examiners, almost entirely teachers or retired teachers, got to work. There were 100 errors in exam papers. an increase from previous years. Most of these errors were spotted before the exams were taken, though some afterwards. Now the process of marking, followed by setting boundaries, begins. Ofqual, as usual, defended itself from the accusation that the setting of quotas bakes in the forgotten third. The curious feature of British exams that about 30% of students receive disappointing grades at A-level and GCSE, and this has been maintained for decades. However, a long-term trend was re-established for higher grades, A's and A stars, to increase in number and proportion. And while exams remain an effective means of selection and discriminating among pupils and giving them a rank order, there remain big questions about whether this is a sensible primary function for a school qualification system. In an excellent summary of the key trends to look out for on A-level results day, Newsweek identified 8. Among these, as mentioned, the top grades were up overall, but the number of students achieving 3 A stars was slightly down. For the first time in many years, the top most popular subjects has changed, with history dropping from 5th. It was overtaken by business studies and physics, and further maths saw the largest rise in entries of any A-level subject. And computing was down for the first time, and French continued its decline. As usual, independent schools, including city training colleges, had the highest proportion of top grades, with nearly half their students achieving A star to A. The website Teachers Tab, which carries out surveys related to education among students and teachers and researchers and the general public, this time surveyed the advice teachers give pupils on results day. Time and again, teachers emphasize that exam results aren't a reflection of students' worth, telling students, "You're more than a piece of paper. The results don't define you. This doesn't measure your worth." Teachers reported that rather than treating results as a final verdict, they tried to help students reframe them as a stepping stone, emphasizing that results are just one part of a much bigger journey. And what happens next is what really counts. The survey also suggested that most teachers are dissatisfied with the university application system, and the majority, by far, would prefer to move to a post-results application system. And while schools are to be congratulated, and the pupils of course, on the increase in the top grades, the TES magazine gives a different picture. With the headline taken from an observation by Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson that it was a national disgrace that so many pupils are written off. The government schools white paper will address the generational challenge of the attainment gap between white working class children and their peers, said the Education Secretary. An independent inquiry into the educational outcomes of white working class children began in June, led by Sir Hamid Patel, Chief Executive of the Multi-Academy Trust, Star Academies. Continuing the A-level results day theme, the TES magazine shows that the regional divide at A-level is growing, and while both the proportion of top grades and the pass rates have seen a slight growth, as we noted before, the regional divide in students getting top grades is increasing, with the northeast of England seeing a fall in top grades awarded. The Independent Online this week reports the number of children in England missing school for a prolonged period of time has risen. The number of children who missed at least half of their classes rose to nearly 150,000 in the autumn term, with over 2% of pupils severely absent, though the overall absence rate has declined somewhat. Beth Prescott, education lead at the Centre for Social Justice, said 5 years on from school closures during the pandemic, classroom absence can no longer be viewed as a post-pandemic blip, and for many, long-term absence is becoming deeply entrenched. And finally, BBC reported a troubling story from Northern Ireland, where schools have been targeted in what it describes as a simply untrue online campaign. Claims that some schools in Northern Ireland are asking pupils to write Valentine's cards to refugees and asylum seekers are entirely inaccurate, according to the Education Authority, which facilitates the Schools of Sanctuary scheme in Northern Ireland. The School of Sanctuary scheme, which is supported by the Northern Ireland Executive, aims to support schools to become welcoming places for all children, including newcomer children. A School of Sanctuary is one which provides significant additional support to pupils, including refugees and others. The Post had claimed that schools had encouraged pupils to write letters and Valentine's cards to refugees or asylum seekers, including suggestions that this could involve unvetted men. In an email to schools, School of Sanctuary UK said it is seeking urgent legal advice on the social media posts and encouraged any school that receives threats to report it to the police. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News, read and selected by John Gibbs.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. This is Teachers Talk Radio. My special guest this evening is Janet Ayoub. Janet, how are you?
I'm fine, and you? I'm fine. Thank you for having me in this interview.
It's a pleasure to be able to speak to you, Janet.
Thank you.
I'm very well, thank you. So, Janet, as I usually do, I would like to ask you what attracted you to education. How did you start becoming a teacher, for example?
Yes, this with respect to me, my journey really into teaching began at a young age. I was about 18 when I started teaching English first as a second foreign language in Zahli in Lebanon. My students were somehow 12 or 13 years old at that time. So while teaching, I was also pursuing my BA in English language.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I moved into also the public sector. So I started first teaching in a private school, but later I moved into the public school sector, where I joined the secondary evangelical school, also in my city, in Zahli, and where I taught older secondary level students. But my school teaching journey spanned several years, ending in 2008. So when I transitioned into higher education as a professor at Lebanese University.
And Janet,
yeah.
What was it that attracted you towards higher education to the university?
Really, to tell you the truth, I started teaching at the beginning, but I found myself that I have to pursue my master's degree and my PhD. And at that time, I was a teacher and a national trainer at the same time. So when I got my PhD, I started teaching in 2008. I started teaching at Lebanese University, higher education, really, because I love teaching. So starting with 12-year-old students, then moving to secondary level, then I was working on my professional development, and I was trying my best to be in or teaching higher levels. This is why really. And at the end, so first we have different titles. At the beginning, I was a lecturer, then assistant professor. Now I'm a professor. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so you always were attracted towards teaching higher levels, being able to have conversations with the students, which is difficult when they're primary level.
Really, I haven't taught primary levels, but I have been a coordinator for a long time. I'm still working as a coordinator in private and public sectors, and also I'm a national trainer.
Right.
Nowadays, I'm working on the national curriculum in our country. We're working on the scope and sequence, and we're going to start also writing and publishing the books for the national curriculum. So I think you, as a teacher, you have to start from the primary classes, maybe cages, if you like, in order to know how your students, how the students grow, their mentality. So you have to understand the way they learn from primary classes, then intermediate classes, or higher levels up to university. Yeah. So I've been teaching for 42 years.
That's quite some time.
Exactly. And let me tell you the truth, teaching 42 years ago was a very different
I can imagine.
Yeah, the classrooms were more traditional, teacher-centered, and student discipline was taken for granted. Believe me, even workshops and training sessions were there back then. And with respect to me, over the years, I've worked extensively on my professional development. To tell you the truth, because I started teaching at the age of 18, I relied heavily on my memories of the teachers who had inspired me most. Their methods, their presence, their impact. But nowadays, it's completely different nowadays. So, I mean,
So in Lebanon, it's also problematic as far as discipline's concerned and with classroom management. I think it's a universal thing, isn't it? The difficulty probably with secondary students, do you think?
With all students nowadays, primary, all the levels. So we have a problem with discipline, especially with with the invasion of AI, with the social media. You can find that students are completely different, and we have to deal with students in a different way. So I think that the best way to deal with them is to understand them. And we have to really, with the students nowadays should be dealt with in a different way. We have to understand what they love, what they like, what they, which topics they like. So it's complete. 40 years ago, students were completely different. And teaching, I think teaching was easier. I think that. So also what you have to take into consideration that Lebanon also is affected by some violence, by war, so we have different conditions from other countries. I don't know if you have ever heard of the conflict that we're facing here. So this is also, these conditions might affect our students, and this is why they might turn to be somehow traumatic. And we, our teachers, and we have, as a teacher, a trainer, as a teacher educator, as a national trainer, we have to understand all of these conditions while training our other teachers. So discipline problems, because also of economic collapse, compounded by conflict and displacement, for example. So many students might be burdened with trauma, and we have to understand that we have also a kind of insecurity, a kind of stress. So most of the teachers should try to deal with all of these problems. And traumatic students might really cause a lot of discipline problems in the classroom. So
I think it must be extremely difficult for teachers to be able to cope with that kind of situation.
In one way or another, they're trying their best, especially in certain places, not in all the regions of Lebanon. In certain places, especially the places that are facing problems of war. But still, believe me, we're used to that. We're used to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, Janet, you said you became a national trainer.
Exactly.
Was teacher training, was teacher education something that you discovered you had a knack for, that you were attracted to? When did that happen? When were your first steps?
Yeah, my first
in
step
education?
was in 2005.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And the British Council trained us at that time. So, of course, I sat for a test. I had a lot of interviews. I went to London, also to Britain with the British Council, not only I as a group. So all of this helped me to become really a good trainer, a national trainer at that time, face-to-face, not online, but nowadays, most of the time, we're training online. So as a national trainer, my years of experience, my years of teaching experience helped me a lot. So to understand the teachers, to help the teachers in different ways. So this is why, and let me tell you also, I taught at my students sometimes. My students are at the Faculty of Education. We teach them methodology, teaching methodology, this course. So, and not only we moved, I don't only teach this course, teaching methodology, but we try our best to move first. They are pre-service teachers. We try to move them from the complex or to help them go to the complex realities of the classroom. So at the beginning, we introduce them, or I introduce them to the theoretical foundations and the practical dimensions of teaching. And we also explore different teaching approaches like connected language teaching or the task-based learning or the differentiated instruction. But this is why why we have to focus on bridging the gap between the two. So I'm just giving you, or I'm highlighting one aspect of my role as a trainer here. First, I teach them at the university methodology course, but later, what should I do? I have to move to the practical component where I have to accompany them on their journey to their classrooms. I observe them. I also try to test how they can somehow turn these theories into practice in their classrooms. So I visit their schools where they are teaching their students. I observe the students. I observe the way they teach in real classrooms. And at the end, we'll have that a kind of meeting. So what went well? Where did they feel confident? What surprised them? How did learners respond? What would they do differently next time? So we might ask these questions. So as a national trainer, this is as a trainer at the university, at the Faculty of Education. Now, with respect to me as a national trainer with a cert, really, I tried my best to first to prepare the materials, tailoring my materials or my workshops in order to meet the needs of the teachers, because I understand, and I'm not only a national trainer, also a counselor, where I visit schools and I observe teachers in order to somehow to guide them, not only to guide them, but somehow to help them, to support them in their schools. So visiting them there, I can somehow notice their problems, and accordingly, I would tailor my workshops, or maybe it might be about differentiated instruction or traumatic. Sometimes we might have about trauma, some other times about the way they have to reflect. So this is this really has helped me a lot, visiting the schools, getting in contact with the teachers in their schools, and then then I would somehow plan my workshops accordingly, or in order to help them, to support them, especially in public schools, because in public schools we have real problems there. Teachers need a lot of support. They might have problems also in language, in the methodology, in the teaching methodology that they have to use. Yeah.
Yes. No, of course. So the gap between the gap that we're going to be exploring in more detail, then, Janet, is between theory and practice. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. That's true.
A large, and how do you start approaching bridging that gap, do you think?
Yes, you know that there is a gap between theory and practice. So this gap, it is somehow related to the contextual or to the human profession. You give them a lot of theories, like, for example, pre-service training might often focus on theories like Vygotsky, Bloom, Krashen, Dobbs theory, which are valuable. But still, if you go to real classrooms, there you can find the noisy environment, you can find diverse learner needs, you have different learning preferences there. You have time constraints. Sometimes we have the pressure from the administration. Sometimes we have emotional labor. So all of these are factors that are related to real classrooms. And this is one of the gaps. So theories, okay, we have a lot of theories, but what about the real classrooms? Another reason for the gap is that we teach them a lot. I teach at the university. I teach them applied linguistics or teaching methodology, and I find myself giving them a lot of somehow of things that are disconnected from the local realities. How do I know that? Because I'm visiting the schools, especially the public schools. So in Lebanon, for example, teachers often enter schools with outdated infrastructure, limited resources. And as I told you before, students might be affected by social or economic instability. So I think as much as possible, we have to bring that. We have to address these challenges directly so that new teachers feel that they are prepared. They are not overwhelmed, but prepared for the real classrooms. So this is the gap that I'm talking about. I don't know if it is if it's clear to you.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I think there are several gaps on there between practice and theory, and
exactly. Yeah,
the research and what works in practice is another gap, which is related, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
This is where we have to work. This is why I'm working on my training programs. Why? Because I try my best to prepare the teachers for the complex reality of the classroom, because I know what's going, what they are going to face there. Mm-hmm. So, like classroom management, like the differentiation, like the learner engagement, the emotional resilience that we did. How? So this is also, we might have a lot of ways to do that. So I think that the most important thing that we have to deal with is really asking teachers most of the time to somehow maybe in my work with a teacher, sometimes I might refer to Cole's experiential learning cycle, like having first cycle of experience, reflection, conceptualization, experimentation. So also, for example, Vygotsky's zone of ZPD, it's the zone of proximal development. For example, if I'm observing the teachers or the students, my students teaching, and I might see how they grow when given just the right amount of support. So I see, for example, here, they need a certain kind of support. So this is how I can help them as a teacher educator, how I can help them bridge the gap between what they know as theories and what they are going to face in real classrooms. So this kind of support. So what I mean by zone of proximal development, it means that, for example, they know how at this stage they need a little or a kind of support. I'm not trying to control them, but it is just it is a support just to scaffold the next step while they're teaching. But what is more important in order to bridge the gap is to really apply the concept of reflective practice. I love reflection. So this is what I usually do. I always reflect. I believe a teacher becomes a professional not just through training, but thinking about their own teachings.
Get a head start on your fresh start with Bloomsbury Education. With 30% off all our books till the end of September, this back-to-school sale is your chance to stock up on CPD titles, classroom resource banks, lesson ideas, and practical solutions to every teacher's pain points. Browse titles on sale from the Like a Ninja series, The Week Junior, and Let's Talk picture books, perfect for the new school year. From leadership to inclusivity and maths to mental health, Bloomsbury Education has books for every step of your teaching journey. Welcome back to school at bloomsbury.com/back-to-school sale.
Over 7,500 primary schools are already using Kapow Primary to boost confidence in teaching foundation subjects. Our expert-created curriculum planning, lessons and CPD are here to support and upskill you, whether you're a subject lead or classroom teacher. If you've got knowledge gaps in art, music, computing or beyond, we've got you covered. Head to kapowprimary.com and empower your teaching today.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles.
So this would help them a lot also. So we're still talking about teachers. Reflection is very important, helping them to identify somehow patterns, adjusting their strategies, being aware of their impact in the classroom. I mean, the strategies that they're using. So again, we have to keep theory alive, but not as an abstract, as a kind of abstract knowledge in our minds. But we have to apply them. We have to use them. For example, if I have a class of 25 students, how can I face the unexpected challenges? This is what we mean by the reflective practice. Also, I don't know, I might also go ahead and ask students, I might also suggest mentorship, mentoring. Maybe having teachers, inexperienced teachers with experienced ones to help each other. But what I love is micro-teaching. I don't know, or video feedback. Somehow micro-teaching really is wonderful. I don't know.
I'm going to stop you. Yes. Going to stop you there because you're moving on to lots of different things, all of them very interesting. But I want to pick up the idea of reflection and its role in teacher development. So reflective teaching, how would you suggest a teacher reflect on their practice? Is it through keeping a diary, a notebook? Is it through talking to other teachers? Is it through mentorship? Or is it a combination of these? How would you suggest, if you have a new teacher, what do you suggest to help them start to reflect on their practice and learn from their reflections?
This is, yes, when we talk about reflective teaching, I think the way I have developed all through these 42 years is by thinking critically about the teaching practice. How you're asking, how maybe by having a journal, a reflective journal, or maybe a diary, as maybe having a simple notebook. I used to have something like this, a simple notebook, and maybe I can call it like a reflective journal. So, and what is more important is having certain questions that they have to write down in their reflective journal. What went well? First, so we have to celebrate what went well in my classroom or in my teaching, what didn't, and why. This is very important. Why do I think that happened? So somehow this is reflective. So this is, I'm talking about a notebook. We might call it a diary, we might call it a reflective journal. What also another question, what would I do differently next time? This is very, very important. So looking pluses, just like the MPI, minuses, pluses, what was interesting. So, and sometimes I might video myself and watch the video and then write down notes. So maybe I can have voice notes. What do you think about voice notes? Because I might not have time to write down, so I might have voice notes using my cell phone if I'm very busy. And I might record my thoughts while driving home, while walking. Sometimes I might do that while walking or exercising. Or, I don't know, we might have a kind of checklist, self-evaluation checklist.
There are lots of different things a teacher can do, depending on what they prefer, what works for them. And I think when it comes to voice notes now, I think the idea of recording voice notes has become a lot more beneficial because it's
Yeah.
very, very easy to get a transcript from the voice notes, because in the
Mhm.
past, recording voice notes I think they were all very good if you listen back to
Mhm.
them. But
Mm.
it's very difficult to search a voice note, whereas it's very easy to search on keywords
Yeah.
in a text. So the idea of being able to have, with AI, automatically create a transcript
Mhm.
of your voice
Mhm.
note means
Mm.
that you have the best of both worlds. The idea of a spoken journal, which is very quick to do
Mm. Mm.
and
Mm.
can be easily done in the moment, but also you
Mm.
have that written record which you can refer to and search upon to find something in particular that you're looking for.
Mm.
Do you agree?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. But they might use their smartphone voice recorder. They might use the WhatsApp notes nowadays if they like. So it's up to the teachers. But I think it is, they don't need the long journal entries that we used to have in the past. I mean, I'm talking about myself. I'm comparing what I used to do before, what I can do now. Somehow, maybe the tone, the way they are going to record it, and it can be done maybe while they're in the car, on a walk, maybe between classes. So also, well, once you hear your own voice, sometimes, oh, I did that. Oh, I recorded that. I don't know. What do you think? So
Yeah.
this is about the voice notes. But with respect to going back to your question about reflection, it might be also peer reflection. So I might ask one of my colleagues to reflect with me, to pair up with a colleague, or discuss a lesson. This is also a kind of reflection. It's not only self-reflection, it is related or under the title of reflective practice. So sometimes I like to discuss things with my colleague. What do you think about this? So
Yeah.
Getting feedback also, again, might be very important to the teachers. I don't know. So just like, mentoring dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you were saying about videoing yourself teaching,
Exactly. Videoing. Yes,
a
I
very
like it. I love it.
powerful thing to
Yeah.
do. But
Yeah.
I also think I would like to hear what you think. If you can video yourself teaching, or even part of your class, but I think it becomes very beneficial if you're able to sit down with a colleague, especially if that colleague is either more experienced than you, or has experience that you want to kind of adopt in your classroom practice. If you sit down with a colleague and look at part of the recording, etc., they can often offer insights into something that you wouldn't see yourself as well.
Exactly, that's true. Exactly. Yeah. And even you're talking about the peer observation, but you yourself sometimes, if you're watching your video, then you will be surprised by the way you talk, the way you say things.
Yeah.
And so you're observing yourself from another angle, from another perspective. So,
and you have the time, don't you? In the heat
Exactly.
of the moment, when you're in the middle of teaching, there's so many things going through your mind, so many things going on in the classroom that you have to be aware of and observant about, that quite often you're not self-aware about some of the things you do as a teacher, unless you actually record yourself by video and watch it back. Then you can pick up on things such as mannerisms, body language, the way you react to the students, perhaps the teacher talking time, all sorts of things that you wouldn't normally notice.
Exactly. And here, for example, the way you handle the transition from one, or which students are left out. Sometimes, you don't, so you're observing yourself. Oh, is that me? I don't know. So, but at the end, I think in order to reflect critically, you should have guiding questions. So different guiding questions that might help you. Just like a checklist. We talked about reflection. Sometimes we might have a checklist. So tick, tick, tick. Yes, I did this. Yes, I did this. No, I didn't. Why? I have to take into consideration that next time, this point, for example. So again, you can give the video to your peer or to the coordinator just to give you feedback, of course, in a constructive way, in a supportive way. This is very, very important. Yeah.
So reflective teaching, having a journal, keeping voice notes, videoing yourself is a very important thing and a strategy to bridge theory and practice. We've talked about that. Being observed by someone, mentoring. Would you talk a little bit more about mentoring? How would you approach setting up a mentoring system in a school, or how would you go about matching mentors with mentees and getting off the ground?
Yes, when we talk about when we talk about mentoring here, I think that it is, in my opinion, it's a key strategy for bridging the theory-practice gap. Why? Why mentoring? Because it is we have a certain relationship. We have a kind of developmental process here. Why? As I told you before, we're pairing up an inexperienced teacher with an experienced teacher. So the mentee here is the less experienced one, or maybe especially if during the early career stages. I didn't I didn't pass through this. As I told you before, I tried my best to develop professionally by maybe attending workshops. But nowadays, I think mentoring is very, very important in order to bridge that gap. Again, we're talking about that gap. And we have that human connection, which is very, very important. And it makes a big difference in the teacher's journey. Here we're talking about the mentee. We're talking about the less experienced ones. So the mentor would somehow is going to be, or she's going to be, a role model for the good practice, for maybe for the classroom management, maybe for the planning. Also, the mentor might be observing the mentees, but what is important is providing constructive, non-judgmental feedback. This is very important. Really, I was observed by British Council trainers. I was observed by inspectors, and every comment counts. Believe me. I don't know if you have ever passed through this. This is why I feel with the less experienced teachers. And also the mentor should listen, should be an active listener and support emotional and professional struggles. This is, I believe that listening actively, and at the end, this is what I do also as an observer, I would ask reflective questions, just to make the mentee, just to make the teacher self-aware. So this is what we mean by critical questions, Socratic questions. And this is how we can help the mentee connect what they have learned to what they're doing. okay, what they are going, what they're the way they're teaching. For example, the mentor might ask, what did you notice about your learners' responses? How did you feel that lesson went? So here, as a mentor, I'm not asking him that your lesson was perfect or your lesson was bad or no, I'm asking him or her questions just to make her or make him aware of the way the lesson or her lesson or the way the learners were in the class.
Yeah, and those questions are quite open as well, aren't they? So
exactly.
the teacher, the mentee can very much choose to focus on a particular part of the lesson that they thought went either particularly well or didn't go so well.
But the most important thing is that the mentee should be, I'm talking about the mindset. This is very important because sometimes they might tell you, I did this, I didn't. Oh, it was perfect, for example. So you can somehow feel that defensive attitude. I didn't do that. I didn't. So he should be somehow open to feedback in order to bridge again that from theory to bridge that gap.
Do you find that there are many teachers who are not so open to feedback?
Yes.
Do you find that? Do you have a lot of teachers who are defensive about?
Let me tell you the truth. Sometimes the most important thing is to deal or to know how you phrase your words as a mentor. I mean, as a trainer, as a national trainer, as an observer, as a teacher, educator, whatever, how you phrase your sentences, your words in order to convey a good message. So not to offend. So sometimes they feel offended. So here, sometimes, yes, we might face resistance to feedback, but usually I try my best to know how to tell them what they have to do at the end. For example, when you offer them suggestions for improvement, the most important thing, they might be afraid that I might tell the administration or I might tell the coordinator, but the most important thing that you have to show through body language, through your facial expressions, that you care, you're supporting here. I'm not trying to criticize you, dear teacher. I'm trying here to support you. I'm trying here to just to help you become a better teacher. Just to help you maybe to develop professionalism. Don't worry about that. This is how we have. This is how. Because some of them are afraid, some of them are afraid of failure. Maybe they have fixed mindset about their teaching style. No, my style is the best, for example. So yes, we might face a lot of, we might face resistance to feedback. So in this case, I try my best to build trust first. And to make feedback feel somehow collaborative. So we're doing this together. So this is why reflective questions, asking questions, is more important than giving direct sentences. Just help them to think critically. Just help them to reflect on their own teaching. Maybe in order to build trust also, and maybe I would share my own early teaching challenges. So I'm not perfect. As a mentor, I'm not perfect. I faced similar challenges, dear mentee. So this is how I can help you. So it's a kind of normalizing the struggle here. So I face the same problems, and here I'm trying to help you. So maybe they even if you ask them questions at certain times, they might lack or self-awareness. They are not aware of, for example, their poor pacing, or they're not aware of giving good instructions, clear instructions. And they might think this is very dangerous, by the way. And this is why sometimes I might encourage them to audio record them or to video themselves, just to notice themselves. So I observe them, but they're not convinced. They are not aware of their gaps in their teaching. So as I told you before, in this case, I would advise them maybe to use checklists, maybe to pair self-reflection with another. Yes, we have a lot of problems. It's not a piece of cake, I'm sure of that. So
it makes it interesting, though, doesn't it, Janet? It's like teaching. Teaching is, there are so many things you can do differently, so many things you can do better. It changes with the dynamics of who's in the classroom, how you feel, what's going on, what you're teaching. That there's always something to learn as a teacher. I think having that open mindset is so important, isn't it? I guess it's the same for your teachers. How do you encourage that for them to have a growth mindset, to have this idea of being willing to open up to different ideas? How can you encourage that? Or is it a long process, or do you find it's easy to do?
It depends. It depends on the teachers. Really, but usually, especially if the teachers, if you have to deal with a certain kind of mindset, maybe I think we have to show examples. We have maybe we can ask them to observe another teacher. Maybe we can ask them to go and visit other teachers. Maybe we can ask them to watch a webinar, as much as possible. So we have to vary our ways in order to convince them. The most important thing is to convince them that you care, that you're trying to support them. So I think that the most important thing that I have or my advice is very simple: be a learner before being a teacher. So we have to learn a lot. And I would tell them, no one enters the classroom fully prepared. It's okay if we make mistakes. It's okay. Nobody is perfect. It's okay as long as you can reflect on your mistakes. But what I focus on is asking questions, having a certain kind of checklist, maybe a reflective checklist. Maybe we have nowadays the COP, the community of practices. Maybe they can join teacher communities. Maybe it might be online or in person. So we have to stay connected with others in order to learn. So we have to convince them in different ways. But the most important thing that we have to focus on in order, again, to bridge this gap is never lose sight of the learners. We have to keep the learners in our minds. Their needs should guide our decisions more than having rigid lesson plans. So learners' needs, we have to understand our learners. And this is why flexibility empathy, and curiosity are somehow important qualities that will help them grow, that will help them sustain their growth. So teaching is not only content delivery. It is connecting with your learners, it's connecting with your colleagues, it's sharing, it's caring, something like this, in order to develop professionally. Yes.
Yeah. It's one of the things that a language teacher has an advantage over content or subject teachers, isn't it? Because language is all about communication and expression of thoughts. Whereas I think with subject teachers, it's far more difficult perhaps to see that that it's not about delivering content, because to a large extent, this idea of getting knowledge or content to students is an important factor. Whereas with English language teaching in particular, or language teaching in particular, it's different because you're developing far more. I mean, it's not to say that subject teachers don't develop skills as well, they do, but it's far more apparent, not only to the teacher, but to the students, that this is what they need to do. They need to be able to write differently in a different way. They need to be able to speak using a different part of their brain, etc. To an extent, it must be easier as a teacher educator because of that, or do you think it's harder?
Exactly. We mentioned micro teaching, but we didn't talk about micro teaching itself. So micro teaching, I think, is also important. While trainees or mentees might practice short lessons, maybe for 10-minute lesson on teaching, for example, comparatives, bigger, smaller. And during the micro teaching, some peers act as engaged students, while two peers role play back row students who keep slipping into Arabic. I'm talking about Lebanese context, or their first language, and chatting. So the trainee, they must use strategies of gentle redirection in English, asking stronger students to model answers. So micro teaching, but here it is having teachers, not students, might help a lot. Really, I tried micro teaching with, I asked many teachers to micro teach, and it was really very successful. So because we have that problem with managing L1 use in the classroom effectively.
So Janet, bringing things to a close now, because we've been speaking for quite some time. Is there anything else related to this gap and between theory and practice, and how to bridge it, that you would like to talk about that we haven't yet mentioned?
So teaching, with respect to me, is a lifelong journey of discovery, of connection, of growth. And bridging the gap between theory and classroom practice isn't about choosing one over the other. It's about weaving them together in ways that make sense for our context. So maybe what I know about something or a certain theory might not be applicable in a certain context in my classroom. So it should make sense for our context, for our learners, and for ourselves as teachers. It means staying open to new ideas, reflective about our impact, and responsive to the real needs we see in front of us every day. This is what the bridging the gap. So we don't need perfect teachers. We need evolving teachers, developing, those who are willing to ask questions, to take risks, to reflect on what went well, what didn't, and try again with purpose. So we have to to look at challenges as opportunities for deeper understanding and better practice. So we have, so when we embrace that mindset, we don't just improve teaching, we transform education.
Excellent. So on that note, Janet, I want to say thank you very much for joining me tonight. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for being so generous in sharing all of your ideas about bridging this gap between theory and practice.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening, everyone, and a special thanks to my guest, Janet Ayoub. Remember, there are Teacher Talk radio shows all week on a diverse range of subjects. That's all from me until the next time, which will be in 2 weeks. Bye for now.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.